I found this story where it shouldn't have been, and once you hear it, it doesn't let go.
The moment the waitress said, "Honey, you didn't stop here on your way through. You stopped here after," I felt something inside me go cold, because deep down I already knew there was a reason every mile of Black Ridge Road had felt wrong. And once those words hit me, all the details I had been trying not to think about came rushing back at once. The GPS turning gray at marker 22. The bent barricade half hidden in the rain, the way the trailer had pulled sideways on that last curve. The split second of weightlessness I had convinced myself was just bad pavement. And then that sound. God, that sound. Metal twisting, glass bursting, the kind of noise your body remembers even when your mind refuses to. I'm Mr. D, and you are listening to Mr. D Stories. Most of you listening to my stories are not subscribed yet, so please like and subscribe to hear more from Bloody Chapter. I asked where my truck was, but Lena only looked toward the back of the diner, toward a narrow hallway disappearing into shadow. I walked that way on legs that barely felt like mine, every sound around me suddenly too clear: the hum of the lights, the tick of a wall clock, the scrape of boots as the old trucker in the brown cap followed a few steps behind without ever trying to stop me. When I pushed open the back door, the wind hit first, cold enough to steal my breath, and then came the smell: wet earth, gasoline, pine, cold metal. The ground behind the diner dropped into a ravine, and down there, tangled in broken branches and washed out mud, lay my truck. Even twisted the way it was, I knew it instantly. The company logo was still visible on the crumpled door. The sleeper had folded in on itself. One headlight still burned weakly through the storm, like it hadn't gotten the message yet. I dropped to my knees in the mud and just stared, because in that moment I understood why nobody inside had looked surprised to see me, why the waitress knew my name, why my face was already on that wall. The old trucker came to stand beside me and told me his name was Roy. He said they had all come here the same way, him on black ice in 2003, Lena in summer fog back in 1987, the burned man at the counter after a tanker fire in 1974. Every one of them had found the diner. Only after the road had already taken them. I asked why they were still there, and Roy looked down at the wreck below and said, "Because some people leave when they remember enough to let go, and some stay because something in them still won't." Then I asked what kept them, and he answered with one word that hurt more than the truth of the crash: regret. That word opened something in me, because regret is never one thing. It's every call you said you'd make tomorrow, every apology you thought could wait, every person you loved carelessly because you assumed life would keep giving you chances. And maybe that was why my phone started ringing right then, sharp and sudden inside my jacket, like the world beyond that diner had reached in one last time. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped it. But when I looked down, the screen was glowing again, and all I saw were missed calls from my sister Mara. Then it rang again, and I answered. She was crying before I even spoke. She said state police had found my truck off Black Ridge. They were trying to reach family, and she kept saying, "Danny, please, if this is you, say something," and hearing her voice cut through everything. It cut through the fear, the storm, the diner, the dead faces, all of it. It reminded me that somewhere beyond that road, beyond that wall full of lost people, there was still somebody waiting for me to come back. I told Roy I wasn't staying. I told Lena I wasn't becoming one more story pinned to that board. Lena looked at me with the saddest smile I'd ever seen and said, "Then don't sit down again." That was when I understood something else about the diner. It wasn't a trap in the way I first thought. It was an invitation, a warm room, a cup of coffee, a place to stop fighting, a place where the dead could slowly get used to the fact that they weren't going anywhere. And if I stayed there 1 second too long, if I let that warmth settle into me, if I let Mara's voice fade under the rain, then I would never leave either. I ran before I could change my mind. I ran straight down that muddy slope toward the wreck, slipping, grabbing branches, tearing my hands open on wet bark and rock, while the voices behind me rose with a storm, not angry, not chasing, just calling my name the way people do when they already know how hard it is to leave warmth once. Death has put its hands on you. The cab was half crushed, the windshield gone, the driver's door bent open like a broken jaw. I pulled myself through shattered glass and twisted metal, and then I saw myself slumped over the wheel, blood dried black across my shirt, face gray in the flicker of the dying dashboard. There is no fear like seeing your own body. It is too intimate, too final. It feels like the world is showing you the truth before your soul is ready to hear it. But Mara was still on the phone, still crying, still saying my name, and I held on to that sound like it was a rope dropped into deep water. I reached out, touched my own shoulder, and the whole world seemed to rip open at once. Then suddenly, I was choking, coughing, dragging air into lungs that felt full of knives, while white flashlight beams cut through the rain and somebody shouted, "He's alive! He's alive!" The next clear thing I remember is waking up in a hospital 3 days later with my sister asleep beside the bed and pain in every inch of me that still worked. The trooper who came by later told me I should have died in that ravine. Said another 20 minutes in the cold and they would have found a body instead of a survivor. I asked him if there had ever been a diner on Black Ridge, and he frowned and told me the last stop had burned down in 1987 after a tanker explosion. Nothing left now but part of the foundation and cracked pavement near the ravine. I never told him what I saw. Some truths sound foolish in daylight. But a month later, when I was finally strong enough to go through the bag of things recovered from my truck, I found something that had no business being there. A paper coffee coaster, dry and clean, with blue handwriting across the front, for words, "You made it through, Lena." I still keep it in my desk, and I still think about that place more than I want to admit, not because I want to go back, but because I understand now why some people never leave. The diner was warm, quiet, forgiving. It asked nothing of you except that you stop trying, that you let go, that you sit down and accept that whatever was broken could stay broken forever. That is what made it so dangerous. Not the ghosts, not the road, not even the crash. It was the relief. The terrible relief of being offered rest before you were ready to fight for one more breath. Ever since that night, I call people back the first time they reach out. I don't leave apologies for later. I don't eat trust roads that feel too empty or lights that appear where no map says they should be. And when rain hits my windshield, hard enough at night, I still remember that yellow glow in the storm and the board on the wall full of faces waiting to become memory. Maybe that is what the last stop really was. Not a place for the dead, but a place for the almost dead. A final quiet room where regret sits across from you and asks whether you retired enough to stay. I almost was. And every now and then, when life gets loud enough to make me careless again, I take that coaster out of the drawer, read those 4 words, and remind myself that some people don't get a second chance after the road decides it is finished with them. I did, and I have no intention of wasting it. Thanks for watching.